Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dialogue to Destiny. Our goal is to engage in discussions that lead to personal and systematic change. These conversations can broach subjects that some may find offensive. It is not the intent of Dialogue to Destiny to in any way offend. Our intent is to encourage open dialogue so that collectively we can all move forward.
Welcome to Dialogue to Destiny. Today's conversation is titled Depression. When is enough enough? This conversation will discuss issues pertaining to mental health in youth and how parents and others contribute to some of the insecurities and barriers plaguing the youth and young adults of the community. Okay, well, this conversation is kind of a spinoff of a podcast that I watched with my son Wesley and his friend Justin Goeman. Justin is he has his own podcast. It's called We Are One. So you guys should probably look at checking that out sometime as well. He does a real good job in discussing a lot of issues, especially issues pertaining to, the younger adults in the community. But we had my son Wesley led a presentation about a month ago on depression and mental health. So they covered that presentation on the We Are One podcast. And I was watching it and I heard some things that I kind of thought were, so I don't know, I guess for me, I just wanted to have them come on so that they can kind of get older people's perspective on the issue of depression in young people. Because I do feel that as a father of four, I have probably done and said things that might have contributed to some of the issues that my kids deal with. So I guess we're going to just have that discussion today, and we're just going to go around starting with Steve and kind of let Steve put in his opinion on the issue before we get started.
My opinion, I think it's a very necessary conversation to have. As I ride to and from work, some of the places I pass, man, have teenagers in their late teens, early 20s, in their 30s, walking around lost, homeless. So I'm thinking this is playing a part in some of that depression. No warm place to stay, no connection with family. I don't know if this is a self thing that they've done to themselves, something I'm just perceiving, or lack of good choices. That's how I'm looking at it, to find out what is it that I'm missing in my age, in my comfort, if you want to call it that I'm not seeing what the younger brothers need from me. So I want to sit down to have the dialogue so we can make the inroads that bring us, the older men and the youth, to the table, and knowing they got our ear that's non-judgmental. Young man, how can we as older brothers help y'all? And that's what I want to find out today, where I need to place my hands on this plow.
I'd say, like, with that introduction, like, what it makes me think of initially is I think growing up, a lot of what I think weighed on me and contributed to how I've experienced depression, that came from my mom, who herself had dealt with, is dealing with, and has dealt with quite a bit of mental health issues. I don't want to call it mental illness, because I think we all have mental health, and we need to maintain a high standard of mental health. So if you don't maintain it, it's going to turn into an issue, and that could result in an illness, but there are some like diagnosable illnesses. But I think in the way that I was like, she contributed was one, projecting some like insecurity on me, projecting just a lot of feelings that I felt as a young kid that I don't think I would have experienced until I was quite a bit older. So having like an introduction, I guess, to some things about life and in life before I was at all prepared to deal with those things, like especially having like good coping skills, and feeling the stress and anxiety from my mom because of the way she projected her insecurity about whatever situation, and then having no idea how to deal with it. I've seen addiction and alcoholism in my life the whole time. So inadvertently, it's like teaching me that's how to deal with those negative feelings and whatnot. So experiencing it too early, and then I think there's a large like lack of understanding too, or like attempted understanding where I think kids are it's like the way kids develop is like with technology, right? Where like in your guys' life, you've seen technology develop, and then like us as younger men, we're like developing with like the newest technology that, so I don't know. I was trying to draw a comparison of like I think younger generations are at a different place than older generations would be in developing a different way. And there's certain things that like both of you guys might not understand in our generation just because it wasn't there when you were younger, or you didn't experience it the same way, or the world's different, I think, to Wes and I than it is to the two of you. So I think not that you guys lack understanding, but generally in the generation there's a lack of like attempted understanding at the younger generations. Those are the things I thought of initially.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna just say all the above. What all you guys have said is a big plays all like the roles in how we feel, the young generation as a whole. Anything from just family, and like I said in the presentation, I think the family that's the root and the core of all the issues, and everything else is just kind of like branches of it. But anything from family to the digital informational age that we're being brought up, like Justin said, and we're exposed to it early on compared to the older generation. You guys been through life without it, and this is kind of like a later thing that you guys have to deal with, which can affect you guys too, because it's like it's this stuff is happening so rapidly with the information process and stuff like that. It's like, how can we keep up? And you guys probably feel like old school in thinking and things like that because it's changing. And we kind of have like the other side of it where we've been growing up with it and stuff like that, but we don't have the I say somewhat like the positive experience you guys had, like going out playing, enjoying each other's time and things like that. And I think that's a lot of things a lot of young people are missing too, because we're so caught up in just this information stuff is getting thrown at us. Is this a legit source, an academic source? Hearing all types of different things, and family break. Well, we can talk about that later. Just family going into on social media and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a mix.
There's something that you mentioned that I've always thought might contribute to it, and it's how rapid things change, how rapid the information comes, how it's right at your fingertip, and sometimes is it information overload, and then what it is you're getting as far as the news sometimes can be produced tenfold, where the story might be a 10, but they tell it to you at 100. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
They make it more impactful, so the news station is the ratings. There was another point I wanted to bring to that there. Okay, the boredom that I see in the kids. Now, over the past 3-4 days, my oldest has come by, the second, the third, she's been at home, and then my youngest one. And I've been watching him closely. And I cracked up the other day because I come downstairs twice, and he's got the refrigerator door open, and he's just staring like it's changed on the inside at all. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what you and I used to do and get in trouble for. Or my wife is guilty of this as well, sitting there with the front door wide open, hollering at her friends that are in the driveway or standing on the porch because they got to visit, but they can't come in. Mm-hmm. So now I'm sitting there like my grandfather. Are you going to heat the outside? You going to cool the outside? Will you shut the front door? Basically, I'm told to shut my mouth so she can keep talking. But we've had more family dinners together as well. So with these things that seem odd to y'all, it's a return to normalcy for me and your pops. You see, this is what we grew up hearing, seeing, and doing. And the only thing added to that was running outside and being gone probably a half hour long, so you didn't just get called by your first name, you got called by your first, middle, and last name when they was calling for you. You know, so there's some things that are happening that I think that are good. And it's bonding, stories that are similar that we can share. Seeing him do that brought me back to my childhood and had me cracking up and saying, man, you just getting as crotchety as granddaddy. Because you complaining about the same things. But I'm happy because I'm seeing some of those things because I think we had a quality of life. I think our childhood was good. We ran around and shared pop, bubble gum, ran the neighborhood, played basketball, hung out at this center, hung out at that center. And these things made a difference. One of the biggest changes that we've had lately is we did not keep them centers that allowed the fellowship and the connection and the growth so you could have friends like me and him and Darren that we've had 40, 50 years that we started kindergarten with, got our driver's license together, and now we are fathers together and still hanging out. And I think that's the importance, that thing that me and Dack are most concerned with. How can we bring what we think was so valuable and good to our growth and our mental health at times, because it was unity of family? How can we bring that back to y'all? And what is it that you're missing from those components?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that, you know, I always like, I remember growing up, you know, and you know, my parents, they weren't able to really do a lot for, you know, us materialistically. You know, so I always kind of thought, you know, when I grow up, man, and have kids of my own, I'm going to try to make sure that they don't want for nothing. You know, and I think my son Wesley can tell you, anytime he asked his dad for something, you know, I might fuss a little bit, but he always pretty much got whatever he wanted. You know, and so, you know, I guess I just went through raising kids thinking that, hey, as long as I can provide what it is that they want, that's going to bring them the happiness and the security that they need. You know what I'm saying? And as my kids grew older, I realized that wasn't it. See, because I remember growing up like having just Christmas at my house with my mom. You know, she always made a big deal. You know, for the night or 2 nights before Christmas, there'd be a whole table full of fudge and cookies and you know, she made it a point to make Christmas a big deal for us. You know, and so like if you were to ask me what gift did you get for Christmas, I can't tell you any of those things, but I can sure tell you how I felt every Christmas morning around the house. And see, I didn't do that for my kids. You know, doing things like that was a hassle for me. You know, oh, you want me to put up a tree and decorate a tree? You want me to put lights outside? You want me to spend 2 days baking cookies and cakes and pies? And, you know, you want me to do all this stuff? I didn't, you know, and see, I do feel like our generation, I mean, it's almost rare to find people in our generation that you know, that makes the small things important. You know what I'm saying? So what's happened is we've made our kids live. So it's not necessarily that they're doing anything wrong. We've made our kids live in a compromised world. They had to compromise. They had to give up a lot of the things that you and I took for granted. You know, I mean, does that make sense to you young people?
I think it makes a lot of sense, and it plays in, I think, with the technology too, like I mean, I think about like social media and like the things that I think our generation values broadly has been manufactured in some ways. So like we also took that for granted, and it wasn't what we necessarily wanted. And it's like hindsight is 2020, right? I look back and I see how I would have wanted to have more of those family settings and those specific, like those family come-togethers that, you know, we look forward to and plan on and know are going to for sure happen and whatnot. I didn't have much of that myself, but as a kid, I wouldn't have necessarily even wanted it. I didn't know that I needed it or needed that fulfillment. I think in large part because I was distracted by whatever other things, if it was like video games or instant messaging or really whatever it was, the multitude of like new things that we had access to that your generation might not have had access to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because it's very distressing to me to see young people unhappy. You know, I mean, the way that I see them. I mean, it's just like, I mean, just walking around and just having conversations with people. It just doesn't seem. I mean, I'm almost afraid of the future of the world because I don't see the passion. I don't see the drive. Because like I said, and me, I've had my battles with depression too. So it's hard to not, I mean, to help other people when you're as low as they are. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
I think in some ways, sorry to cut you off, but you're talking about like the lack of like passion and drive, and I think that in some ways that's a symptom of the projected insecurity from the older generation, where we're not empowered to be passionate about certain things because what we're passionate about might be strange to your generation, and then it's not pushed on us to follow that further, right? Like if I want to do a podcast, 5 years ago when I first had the idea, my mom would have been like, what's a podcast, right? I might not have had parental support in wanting to start a podcast, and now I'm doing that, and it's something I'm passionate about and fulfills me. But 5 years ago, had I looked to a parent to get that support, I don't think it would have been there.
Yeah, and it's like I think with the just older people, it's like a linear path to what they call success and stuff. It's like, okay, go to school, go to college, become a doctor, engineer, something like that. Once you finish that, get married, find somebody, get married, and then raise a family. Then that's it. You die. It's like, I mean, there's other ways, and now people. So in our generation, they might want to be a YouTuber or something like that, and people don't understand. They're like, "Why do you want? That ain't no real." But it's like for them, it is, because it's like that's what fulfills them and stuff like that. And even I said before, success. I mean, that's determined by the person and stuff. It doesn't matter. Success doesn't just mean like how much money you make or whatever. I mean, if you want to, like I say, make like finger paintings or something like that, or have a food truck and sell hamburgers and chicken tenders or something, if you're successful and that's what you really want to do, that's success. And to me, that's just as great as somebody being like a doctor or a whatever NFL player or something like that. So it's just yeah.
I think a lot of when I think of like my friends' families that might have been a little more put together, more like wholesome families. And the expectations from those families was simply just like college and a job, right? It wasn't like you're saying, like it's like pressure from families to do the thing that sounds the least appealing, right? It's hard to be excited about the future and finding things to fulfill you when you know what is expected of you from, right, where you kind of alluded to success isn't measured just by money, but a lot of parents just want their kids to have money so that they can be free, be financially free and be stable and have security and be taken care of. But for like kids, like that's a lot of times the last thing you want to have to be concern yourself with or think about is, what am I going to be doing in 30 years? Oh, I went to college to get this degree, and you already feel like tied down based on the expectations of you. Yeah.
But that's I got one more point on that. But it ain't even just parents, but it's like the school system and all, like teachers and professors. Because when I was going to school, it's like, I mean, I was never taught how to do taxes. I don't know how to do like taxes. I didn't know how to change a tire. I didn't know how to do basic mechanical work, life skills. It was just, okay, you get this material, you study it, you pass the class, and then you might get some money or something to go to a college that you may want, because you got to let people accept you and stuff like that. And if you're not accepted to this, you might be like, you might not be good enough for us or whatever like that. So now you got to go to a community college and do a major, something that you not really want to do because you were focused on trying to do something else. And then once you go to college, it's kind of like the same thing. They're not teaching no real life skills. It's like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to be the best employee or the best worker you can be, and you're gonna have to work under somebody and not really be like that CEO. And I mean, there won't be, everybody can't be like a CEO, but just teaching you that like work mentality and that kind of like that like step ladder thing. And then it's they also, like, even in economics class, it's like, okay, I don't even know how to manage my money. What about budgeting? What about what about financial freedom and different what is it called, passive income? I never learned any of that in college.
See, one of the biggest things back when we were in school, we had a little ledger that we had. We brought our little nickels, dimes, and quarters in every Tuesday, and we had to keep our little books, and they taught us about banking. And I really think that that's something that they need to reapply. I would really love for my child to learn about finances, the tax portion, and what's going on in the world that they're going to be living in. I never dreamed for my kid. I wanted my kid to be successful and know how to run his life. I never planned for my kids to be building domes and geometric shapes and whatnot, and I didn't know why they would cram geometry down my child's throat. I'm not real big on algebra, but I can see where it fits in, because when I work 8 hours a day for X amount of money, I'm going to know what it comes out to. See, I don't need to have this mysterious thing going on. I need things that are going to be tangible in my child's growth through his young years, and that will manifest themselves in a good, functioning, and structural way in his life. Learning finances is one of them. Learning how to bank is one of them. To kind of steer this back towards depression, the community that I've grown up in, especially on the north side, those things that they call indicators for depression is the life we live.
Mm-hmm.
Stressed out about work, stressed out about bills, stressed out by who's riding behind me and if they flip their lights on or not. Stressed out in my relationship, because sometimes the relationships that we are involved in, if they're not caustic and full of, mess, we don't feel that we're in a relationship. You have a healthy relationship, seems boring. This is boring. Hi, hon. Hey, how you doing? How was your day? Your day? Okay, fine. Mwah. You go off. Well, they didn't slap each other. They didn't fight. They ain't argued about somebody else. Oh, they ain't got no meaningful relationship. We're going to have to start changing our mindset about what it is that we're going to accept. This will take us back to one of the first conversations that we had. What's the vision you have for your relationship with yourself and your life? How are you going to obtain that without blaming somebody else, without getting there? Yeah, there's going to be some people that are going to cause some roadblocks, man. But use those people as your fuel, not as your failure. Use them as your fuel. Then look at self. What am I doing that's applying itself to this mission for the thing that I say that I want? And I think sometimes us not being able, as men, not being able to say what we think and how we feel causes us to erupt in a bad way. A lot of times in relationship, because old girl can out-talk you. You know what I'm saying? And because we don't know how to express our feeling and conversate, it brings us to an area where we end up being depressed. When we don't do those things, when we don't figure out how to get what we want to have and dedicating ourselves to it. Because, these things in life, you can't stand on no corner with no piece of cardboard and a cup in your hand talking about give it to me. You got to be a go-getter. You got to go get these things that you want. You got to figure out how it's done. Sometimes, son, I need you to come to me and say, this is what I want, and I'm not sure how to get there. This is like when me and you read and talk. when we reading the book, and I show you this is what you're trying to say, ain't it, young man? That you want a spot at the table. You want my ear, my non-judgmental ear, my loving ear, my caring ear. And when I hear those things, that I'm responsive. And I'm honest enough to say, I don't know, but let us go together and find out what it is. I think a lot of the depression from the young man comes because of the old man being vacant. I'm not helping you step into your manhood. I'm not helping you groom you for your manhood. Then you walk around and you see a kid that gets a pat on the back just because his daddy's involved. Shame on both them men. Don't you believe because you're being a father that you deserve a pat on your back?
That's right.
And because you're not in your son's life, you don't need a kick in your behind. If we are vacant and we are not there to prepare our young men, chances are we are their depression.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. Because I, like from all of my kids, I'm sure that they all feel like their dad is constantly pressuring them. One of the lines I always tell Wesley is your mother and your father play separate roles in your life. Your dad's role is to push you, and your mom's role is to comfort you when you fall. And maybe I come at that too hard. But this is a conversation Wesley and I have had for years. Because I always tell him that, your dad is never going to stop wanting better. So, and I think that when a person isn't receptive to that attitude, because I was driven. I've always been, me personally, I have, from the time I was 13 years old, we were building little forts and trying to sell penny candy for 2 cents. We'd go to the store and buy a penny of candy and come back and sell it in our little store for 2 cents, trying to make a profit. I have always, my brothers, they oh man, all you care about is money. Money's gonna be your downfall. I've heard that stuff my whole life. I have always been driven, and then my kids, they don't seem to have that. So there's a conflict. So because I do believe that their approach causes me depression too. I mean, so it's a two-way street. I mean, so what I do is my depression might make me lash out and impose my strength and my will on them even greater. You see what I'm saying? Because, like I said, I mean, I think Wesley feels like, hey, you only come at me. But then my other son will say, man, why are you always there? My son Derek, I'm always on him. My son Dack Jr., my daughter, they'll all tell you, my dad never stops. And I need to stop because I don't want my pushing to push them too far where it's hurting them. You see what I'm saying?
Don't stop.
No, but I maybe my approach is not right.
There's nothing wrong with tenacity. It might be tact, Dak, but never let being the tenacity and the importance of that thing.
Yeah.
Never step off the gas.
Yeah,
but we might have to change the approach.
The thing is me pushing the gas too hard might drive the car off the cliff. You see what I'm saying? I understand people want to pursue their passions like these young men were saying. They want to do the things in life. And I've always told Wesley, you have a career to make your money. Your money is what allows you to chase your passions. See, so I don't. For me, I don't. I mean, as much as I don't. I swear from this podcast on, I'm gonna stop pressuring them. But I don't understand how you think you're gonna cope in a life where your passions come first. You have to have your finances secure enough so that you can enjoy when you want to go to a trip, you can enjoy it because you're not worrying about what you left behind at home. There's nothing wrong with chasing your passions. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. My passion is fishing. As soon as I left my job, what did I do? I went and bought myself a new boat because I want to do the things that are important to me. But I would never have allowed fishing to interfere with my ability to make my money and my ability to provide for my family. You know, because I feel like I've been a good provider. Like I said, I've done everything I can to make sure my kids didn't hurt for anything. But they're hurting in other reasons because I neglected something. And that's what I'm trying to get my kids and young people to open up about. So what do you think, Wes?
Well, I say for the passion part, I was thinking, I mean, I understand having money and stuff and job and stuff like that, but it's like I'm supposed to spend 40 years miserable, depressed, working this amount of trading my time in for a stack of money. Instead, why can't I focus on using or making money and for less time rather than I'm gonna trade time in to make money and things like that. And it's like then I got to report to people, just deal with the workplace and things, going to a job I hate. And with the statistics that I've had, is most people have heart attacks and stuff when they're getting ready to go to work. I mean, how many older people do I know that's been working 35, 40 years, no matter what field, are really happy with their job and things like that? I know a few people, they're an engineer and stuff. They're making a lot of money, but they said they want to leave their job because they're not happy and they want to get into other things. But I mean, I agree with making money and stuff, but it's like you should make money up until a point where you become like sufficient in what you want to do, and just eventually take that leap of faith. And because comfortability. That's I mean, you can't really grow when you just like that and everything's just steady and it's just okay. I know when I'm gonna get paid. I know this. It's like you already know how things is gonna turn out.
I think like a life that is unfulfilling is a life I don't want to live. So I think if you operate in a world with good intentions while finding a balance between security and doing the things that you want to do, the universe or the world is going to respond and take care of your needs. Like that's what I've started to kind of be able to achieve. I'm able to start to trade my time less for money and do things that I'm passionate about doing and see a purpose and its impact on the world and things like that. And I think, and some people maybe are cut out to just go to work every day, and that's like, maybe that's what's right for some people, but just for me personally, a life where I'm not doing the things that fulfill me, I don't want to live. It's not. I'd have no fuel to get out of bed. I'd have no reason to.
It's like no purpose.
Go work. Yeah. And I think for me, it's important identifying that early, because now I can go through the trial and error to try and achieve that balance. It's always going to probably be a journey, but if I wasn't at least trying, I'd probably still be addicted to dope, because that's what I'd prefer to be doing if I wasn't fulfilling myself through other things.
And then I think too, you said something about I'm pushing my kids and stuff like that, which is good, because it's better to do that, encourage your kids, than to discourage them or not say nothing, especially like within the black households and stuff. Parents don't even be knowing if their kid is even doing their homework or online or whatever. It's like you complain that the school system is bad, but you don't even know your kid is in school. I mean, that makes no sense to me. So these kids grow up they have no sense of direction and no push, because their parents ain't doing nothing. That's one. But I had a question too, I guess, for both of you. It's like when is pushing enough, and then two, do you guys push your kids so much because you guys haven't lived what you wanted to do, so you're trying to push your dreams into your kids to have them live what you wanted when you were growing up?
Well, growing up, my mother had aspirations of me becoming a doctor or something like that. Bought me these books called The Story of Life, man. Put the album together with the books. You had a binder, you could slide the books in. Well, I'm sure by the time I hit junior high, she's like, this boy ain't gonna be no doctor. Y'all stop laughing now. I'm trying to keep it real. I'm trying to be candid now. But the conversation we had was, get an education, find you something you enjoy. Your happiness is more important to me than the amount of money that you make. And that has been my approach with my kids. Spend time with them, coach them. If they need to have a question, ask me. I've always been open. And later in life, I come to find out how much his friends appreciated the relationship that I had. Well, not just my son, but with my daughter as well. They appreciated that. I was a young father. There's no handbook for fatherhood. My father wasn't around. Thank God for my grandfather and my uncles and stuff. So I did get to see role modeling from men. They would pick me up and take me places. I think that made the hugest difference, a huge difference in my life. Men who loved me, who cared, and spent time with me. On the same note, if I got out of line, I had uncles that would come all the way over to my mom's house, tighten me up real quick, sit down and tell me why they tightened me up, showed me the right path, and promised me, do it tomorrow, I'll be here to tighten you up again tomorrow. Those type of things made a difference through the rough times. When you get being a heavyset kid growing up, you get picked on a little bit. Well, hey, you know what? You can't fight everybody, man. So you're going to have to let some of this stuff roll off your back. Understand what type of person you are. This is how I feel about you. Those things kept me grounded and kept my armor thick enough that I could get through what the rest of the world threw at me. With that being said, I don't think you guys get 25% of the heat that we used to get, because everything's been legislated to what? Can't call him heavyset, can't call him dark, can't say his hair is navy, can't say it's too long, can't say she's ugly. You know what I mean? That was just a bus ride to school, you know? Let alone if you were on the bus going to skating. Right or wrong, Dack?
You're right.
See, we had to be thick-skinned, so I think we became more prepared at an earlier age than some of these folks are now. Just to example, some of the people that we've worked with that we've been like 20 years older than, some of the things they say and their expectations are, we don't say nothing because they're peer employees. Let me and Dad go to the break room, man. It's like, did you hear that fool? Man, no wonder that's what's wrong with them. You know what I mean? We get real judgmental, but that's us being parents. Been so long ago when we were y'all. And that's part of the dialogue I want to have. What are those things and what do they look like? More importantly, what does our help look like to y'all on the things that you guys have, not the things that we've said, but on the things that you guys have said? What does our help look like? Justin.
I guess there's nothing, you don't need our help.
Well, I mean, I could use it. I've just never had it, right? So for me, it's like I don't know what I need. You don't know what you don't know, right? So I have no idea if I were to have a blanket answer that would work well for every young man. I'm not sure what that response would be. Besides, I guess, now that the couple come to mind, the attempted understanding, for one, is important. One thing I can't stand, because I've dealt with it my whole life, is discouragement. Don't tell me I can't do something, especially if it's just an idea. Like, listen to the idea, and I'd prefer you first, like, try to imagine how it could work. Whereas, like, I've had a lot of shit that I'll bring up that just gets shot down. If it's from friends or parents or family, teachers, anybody, they're just like, oh, well, I can't see that, working. It's like, that's cool, because you don't see it the same way that I do. Let me describe it further than 10 seconds, or whatever.
It's just your thought. It's my
Well, what you just said is probably, I think, the biggest contributor to the depression I've had in my life, because I'm telling because I'm a dreamer too. You know, I love to envision. You know, when I talk about getting 10,000 people to invest $50 a month to build, to start rebuilding North Minneapolis, that's something that most people, they shoot down on sight. I mean, as soon as they hear it, oh man, that's crazy. Oh, you need to do this. They always try to tell you that you need to go to somebody else, like everyone else knows more than you know. You know what I'm saying? So that, I think that's probably been my biggest contributor, is what you just said, as far as people discouraging, man. People telling me that I can't, that my dreams are unrealistic. The things that the things that I see, and the way that I envision it. Because like I said, I feel like, I've said before, I feel like I've experienced success in life. I've done some things, but there's a lot of, but that, and I agree with you guys. Money, I don't care how much money you have, it's not going to make you happy. I'm going to tell you, so you do have to find something inside you that brings that happiness. Because I mean, I see celebrities worth millions and millions of dollars on TV talking about how they fight depression, So, I mean, I think it's very important to find people that share your vision, share your dreams, and you build a network around them. Because, when you're constantly, trying to make people see this picture that you've painted, they're telling you it's blue, but that it's green. You're trying to convince them that, to look at this picture that you painted, that you created, and they're telling you it's something that you don't see. That's a battle that you will always internalize. You're gonna always go home and you're gonna question yourself. You're gonna learn to doubt yourself. You're gonna learn to believe that, hey, what it is that I'm seeing and what I'm dealing with is never gonna come to fruition, because all the people in your life constantly tell you that it's a failure. So I agree 100% with that, man. And those are the things that I know, have kept me in the state of mind that I'm in. But Wesley had asked, like, you asked about me and Steve a question about
I said why you guys think you guys push enough too much? Like, when is the limit? And then two is you try to live your dreams and goals out through your kids.
And that's one that I really wanted to answer. And I do. I believe, when you're an athlete and you didn't make it, you always you push your kids harder on the practice field, because you're hoping that next generation can do it. And when there's so there's I do believe that for me, and it might be a fault, but I do believe that my kids was my second chance at things that I didn't accomplish. I didn't do a lot of things in life because of insecurities, of depression and things like that. So I was hoping that, hey, if I just give my kids this, if I encourage them, because I don't really feel like I discourage my kids, but I do feel like I might push them. But as far as like telling them that they can't do something, I don't know that that's the case in with my kids and me. I mean, Wesley might have a different take on that, but I don't feel like I really discourage. But I probably always, I might try to change the way that they look at something or whatever. But as far as telling them he can't do something, I believe a person can do whatever they want to do. I do. But I also believe that what you want to do has to be realistic. It has to be something. You can't spend your whole life living in your parents' basement. Mm-hmm. You can't spend your whole. Eventually, birds get pushed out of the nest a week, 2 weeks old. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you're gonna have to fly and flap your own wings to make it in this world. You can't, So it's easy for people that don't want the responsibility of being an adult. I mean, in American society. To say, hey, I want to chase my dreams. I would love to, like I said, I would love to go out bird watching or do whatever it is I want to do. But at the end of the day, You know, there's expenses to living, and especially in a country like America. You know, we're not living in a country that where people just are free willing, you know, to do whatever it is they want, and you just live off the land.
I think there is a point where, like, you hear every parent wants their kid to have a better life or better circumstances than they had. Would you say that's true in your experience as fathers? And I think it comes to a point where that's more hurtful than helpful, kind of like you're saying, where like I have friends who have had it easy on them their entire lives, and it's a lot harder for them to get started as an adult, and because they had parents who just
took. Is that the parents' fault or the children's fault?
I think it's a combination of both, because the parents made it too easy on their child. The child never assumed any of the responsibility themselves, right? So it's harder for them to step up and take that role on for themselves of taking care of their needs, because now all of a sudden they don't have a parent to do it for them, which is what they're used to. They went through, you know, you're developing up until like 28 years old. If majority of that time you're living with your parents until you're 22, 23, 24 years old, that's what you know, and you've developed in that. Like, your brain has developed in that. That's like, it's hard to step away from that.
I'm 52 and I still want to live at home with my mom. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the economy too.
You never get past that.
I think the economy too is just it's so hard. The housing crisis and stuff like that, and the jobs ain't paying nothing.
Yeah, we live in like, where the working class, like, America is built on top of the working class, and if a working class doesn't have the spending power to, you know, do the things that we would enjoy doing, then the future, I think, to like us as being younger looks dimmer and dimmer when we think of like,
who pays to keep this country going if everyone has the attitude that they're going to chase dreams and not worry about money.
But I don't know if it's about like chasing dreams necessarily, but fulfilling purpose. Those are two different things.
But you can't fulfill purpose and chase dreams.
What if my purpose is just like putting in an IV at the hospital as a nurse, or as a janitor? I enjoy fixing things in a school because I understand.
You're a contributor at that point, though.
Right, but that would be fulfilling purpose, and that would be like a working class position that would fulfill, I think, a certain amount of people. I don't know. That's
every, because I think people. I don't know if you think it's people's dreams or people's dreams and purpose are tied into like doing useless stuff. Like, somebody, like for me, I'm really involved in ministry and evangelism to somebody that don't care nothing about God or anything like that. Oh, why you want to do that? But it's like, I'm helping so many people, and the thing with evangelism, it's not just, oh, I'm going here preaching about God. It's like, dude, I'm doing humanitarian stuff. I'm trying to do community, like. And the thing about it is that Grandpa, he just planted that seed. Why don't you come to Bible stuff, son? Why don't you come to Bible study with me? That led to a whole another thing, and it's gonna keep moving forward. So it's just, when you got a fire, I mean, even like with Justin doing all this, when you got a fire inside you and that's your purpose, I mean, you do what you need to do, and you start learning more stuff. Cause when I was growing up in school and stuff, I didn't care nothing about math and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, I want to do this, so I have fire and purpose for this, so I'm gonna learn how to do this geometric formula to build this, so I can build like a water well for kids or something like that. Or I'm doing, I want to learn about maybe some type of like art or something like that, or how to get into digital programming. To help this or help like a community thing or something like that. So it's just different. You start growing and building things.
I think in the future, hopefully, like through this pandemic, we like are forced to look at the way we operate, like the education system, differently, because I think it'd be awfully neat if we had a more of like a individualized learning experience, and you know, like the core classes are like those life lessons, like how to pay your taxes and like those certain life things that should be taught in school, but then give kids an opportunity to like try things out that is, you know, they might be fulfilled by, find something that they could imagine actually doing themselves, you know, for the rest of their life or some substantial amount of time in the future. But there isn't much empowering people or kids especially to try new things, to even understand themselves and understand what they would want to do. So yeah, my point being, just like if we could somehow, instead of like our education system is set up to produce working class people and produce just like cogs in the machine, whereas I'd rather see it more empowering. I think I've said that. multiple times.
So
But,
are
yeah.
you for homeschooling more than like public, or it's just kind of like a restructure
It
of
would
the
still,
public?
I think, we could still probably do it through like public schools, but maybe lessen the burden on shoving like next to useless information down the throat of kids, right? And give them an opportunity to try things that, there's potential in. Try, digital art, or more access to, things that'll teach you how to be an engineer, whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah. See, like Steve had mentioned earlier about how when we were young growing up, we had like community centers and things like that. We had community centers and other places where kids that grew up could go, and we had people there that we looked up to that could help mentor us and help us even with depression issues. If we're not feeling good, just to have somebody come up and talk to you. And I had that in the community center that I spent most of my time at. So I don't know. I mean, maybe like some of the stuff you guys are talking about as far as like Steve had mentioned, teaching kids how to, and Wesley had mentioned too, even write out a check or balance a checkbook or whatever the case might be. You really don't have to do that in today's world because, everything's online. But, I mean, maybe those are resources that the community, or us as a group here, we can start forming. You get accountants to volunteer time and come in there and teach young people about taxes and teach young people, there's resources. I mean, because that's part of what Dialogue to Destiny is to me. This is for me, this is a way for people to start thinking about or coming up with ways to build a healthy community. And when I say healthy, I'm talking about financially, spiritually, mentally, physically. I mean, just people getting to a place. I mean, I would love to walk into a park and see, like I remember Wesley when he was a kid, he played on a football team. And every time I went to his practice, I used to always say, this is what America should look like. I mean, you just saw people of every single race that you could possibly think enjoying the same space at the same time. And even though it was the neighborhood where this park was at was a pretty impoverished neighborhood, you still felt this sense because for me, and this is what I have to change within myself. I have to learn that being, and I said it earlier, that finances, money does not make you happy. There's a part of me that still doesn't believe that. You know what I'm saying? There's a part of me that still believes, hey, if only I could become a billionaire, all of my worries would be gone. So but I don't know. I mean, I think that we need to start looking at ways of building healthy communities, and it could start with having a center like we were talking about in one of the previous podcasts, where we have a resource center where people can go and get access to to different things. But no, I'll leave it there. But it's just listening to you guys talk is kind of just kind of making my mind spin on some different thoughts.
I definitely think that like grassroots resource centers where like the volunteers are choosing to give their time and the people that are choosing to come and take advantage of the resource they're opting in to be there. I think that's way more impactful than like if we just like if that thing was like forced down your throat at school and just made it mandatory. If it's people choosing to absorb that information that you're trying to provide, I think it's way more impactful. I don't know, just made me think of that.
Yeah, that's true. So what? I'm just trying to think what made you guys go to the community? Like, why isn't nobody really going to the community centers no more? It's just not a.
Well, a lot of them have closed down. I think that time in the 80s, when the gangs had started coming in, they kind of took over the community centers. People stopped wanting to work there for the quality unraised, abrasive young man coming in there loud. There's only so much you can do with that child till you say, you know what, I throw my hands up and I walk away. It comes a point in time where people stop supporting it because it's no longer productive or doing anything good for the kids or the community. It's become an eyesore, and it's become a source of their problem because they're meeting up here and then they're dispersing to the local store or corner store or the neighborhood, or they see somebody don't like, and all these things started to erupt. Could we have pumped the brakes on that? Yeah. But when you have father and son doing that thing instead of father and son doing this thing, it has impacted us negatively. We've lost some of those areas. We went through a period of time, I want to say in the late 80s, early 90s, Randy, you would go to a basketball court and they had the iron cross across the top of the hoop. Shut down the basketball. You ain't no sense, you can't use it. You can't shoot no bucket through it. They would shut it down. So I don't want you in the park at all. Not even on this outdoor court.
Because of the gangs?
Well, because of the gangs, just because people were tired of hearing basketballs bouncing and playing. I mean, there was a variety of reasons, but most of it came from the gangs.
Yeah. Well, I personally think that the reason why community centers and stuff that they're no longer utilized to the degree they were when I was a kid is because technology. I think kids today I believe that they're antisocial because parents believe that being a parent is getting your kids a video game and letting them go sit in their room by themselves playing online. Now, if you could open up a community center with all these video games, they'll be there. Well, but see, their interest isn't the same. They don't play sports the way to the degree that we used to as kids. There's
a good reason for that.
Why? What's the reason?
Well, me and you could go to the park and pay for free. All we had to do was get a permission slip. Now these kids got to come with 75, 100, 125 in the same broke neighborhood that we come from.
That's just the enrollment fee.
Right, exactly.
Equipment.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk about what we can do to have the resources available.
What happened to where we could no longer do these things for our kids? Now we're talking about a society that has more disposable money than we've ever had before.
Well,
and now we can't provide childhood experiences for our kids. Everything costs at the park board, at school.
Well, I can tell you what happened to the Phyllis Wheatley. They focused. They turned it more into an after-school program for tutoring, and I'm
great idea.
And I'm not going to say that there's not a space for that, because but when you've taken a community like the community I grew up in, and you take a community center where kids went and they played pool, basketball, ping pong, whatever they wanted to do, hung out. We had youth groups where we'd get together and talk, and all of a sudden after school tutoring takes that space, and they don't want these other kids there.
There was a reason for it.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong, Steve.
Here's the key thing. Some of them kids leave school and go right to the community center. So if they're not going home, I suggest they have a tutoring area. Do I say take the whole area and convert it? No. But before you and I could go to the community center, we had to get off that bus or walk directly home, check in, get the homework checked, done, before we could set foot out that door.
Yeah.
And if we waited too late, only way out the door we could go was front steps until the lights came on. So it's the parenting thing that goes in there with as well. So if my community center sees the fault in me,
but what do you do? What do you do with a kid, Steve, that doesn't need that tutoring? What do you do with kids that are in the community that don't need after school tutoring? Where do they go for an outlet?
Boys and Girls Club.
But that you had, even back in our day, you had to pay to go to Boys and Girls Club.
You always had a membership for the Boys and Girls
But you had
Club,
to pay for it.
but it wasn't something. What was it? $5, $3 a year, $5 a
I
year.
know
is
that
what
was
it's
too
going?
much for me, man.
No,
You
man,
know,
you should
I
have
wasn't
came
up
see
on
me. Should have asked me,
Washburn.
man. Should have asked me.
You know, I never went to the Boys and Girls Club because it was too much money. Phyllis Wheatley was free.
But you know, fortunately, I always had the ability to work at a young age, so I was able to make a few scribbles on my own. And if I wanted anything outside them bumpers, the old blue canvas tennis shoes with the white toe and the blue stripe, I better go get my Converse. I better go get my Docks. You know, I better go get my my Pumas, my Nikes. Those were the things that when I had my own stand working inside my father's dry cleaners, those were the things I was able to put my money towards. That was the responsibility or work ethic that was instilled in me, because I've always had jobs off and on since the age of 8. Since the age of 8, I don't know how not to work. I don't feel good if I do not work.
Well, I agree. I'm the same way.
And with that, there was a creation of a desire to get out the house. Because I've been on my own since 18.
That's the other thing too. I think
You've been on my own since I was 18
Yeah.
because I was taught how to grind. That's all I seen my uncles, my grandfather, my aunts, my mama. That's all I've seen them do is grind. I seen my mama work 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And if she could get a Sunday, she would. That was where she was from. Boy, this is how you get what you want. It's going to provide what you need, but this is how you get what you want.
And I think what you said that, I think that's the kind of thing that differentiates between what's going on now and stuff is that you guys had an adult early. I mean, and it ain't even just working and stuff, but it's like you guys getting a lot of people got kicked out when they were 17, 18 years old, fending for themselves, people getting married as a teenager, having kids early on. And so you kind of pushed out there and facing the streets in life earlier.
I'll put it to you. I'm sorry, Justin. I'll put it to you like this here. My mama raised an ignorant man. Very ignorant. See, Dack laughing because he heard this. She raised an ignorant man because I didn't know what it was like to come home and the lights be off, electricity be off, the phone be off. I don't know what it's like to not have school clothes coming to school. You know, when the school year starts, school supplies. I don't know what any of that's like. I was very ignorant. However, I thought I knew every damn thing when I said I left the house. You could call me Magellan, Columbus, whoever you wanted, because I discovered all that. Lights off, all of that, you know what I mean? I discovered. But one thing I had to lean back on is what I was taught, what I had seen. And now I had to apply what I had learned. See, the vision, I'm going to get out here because I know everything. I'm managed. I got a couple little dollars in my pocket. I know I make money, da-da-da-da-da. Woo, whoo. When them people want their money now, they mean right now. When they say the third, that don't mean the fourth. When they going to do what they going to do, they going to do it. So I need to do what I need to do. And there's something that Justin said to me, or said to us. I don't know what to ask. And when you hear that, what he told me, remember what I told you? Mine at 1,200 words a minute, mouth at 120, in 3 minutes, I hear what you say. Dude, you can always come to me and talk. I'm going to write my number down. Anything. Stupid ideal, great ideal, bad ideal means nothing between me and you. We will have dialogue. We will have conversation. And I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. Let me go ask my uncle. Let me ask somebody who's been there, done that. More importantly, has recovered. See, you don't want somebody stuck in the middle. You want somebody who didn't fall down, lay down, or turn around. You want to follow somebody who followed through. And sometimes it's not going to be, well, man, you call that following through? It's the best I could do. But look at the mistakes I made. You'll pick them out before I will. Improve that walk. Right, man? Let me see that piece of paper. So to any other brother out there that just simply wants to help, man, step one. My name is Steve, bro. Whenever you want to holler, man, I'm available, man.
Appreciate you.
I ain't got no whole bunch of time, but what time I got, I'm willing to share with you. I hope that I've shown you that.
Mm-hmm. All right, you guys got anything else you want to close out with, Justin, Wesley?
My bad. I think ultimately, if I could say one thing to a bunch of people and they all get it at once, it would just be that. I think there's need to be authentic and just be honest about who we are as individuals and be honest about our current circumstances in our positions in reality, because lack of honesty and lack of authenticity, I think, is driving a lot of what we're talking about, where we can't be real with ourselves about, our income or the bill that's coming up that's due or whatever it is, or be honest with people around us even more so about those types of things. We feel the need to we pretend as if nobody else struggles and no one else faces adversity or self-doubt or self-destruction, insecurity. There's a need to be honest about the highs and the lows. So yeah
it's good. Agree with that. I'll probably just say love. I mean, that's the universal thing, but love your kids, and kids love your parents if they're doing right, and give your kids attention and give your parents attention. And that money and stuff ain't gonna fulfill that desire, maybe temporarily, but it's creating lasting memories. Even just going for a walk or eating at a dinner table, that's, to me, that's what is true. And just things like that. So
One thing that Justin said about being honest, being transparent, being candid, being a man of faith. I had to call myself out Saturday at Bible study. Hey, Brother Steve, how you doing? Man, I'm blessed, man. Da-da-da-da-da. It's a great day. And I heard every man around the table say the same thing. Then I sat back and I said, let me tell the truth. Brother Curtis, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a little depressed about what's going on. And it attributed to one of the older brothers' members that passed away the day before. And kind of throwing a pity party. But being around those men after we all were honest, it said we were feeling some kind of way after all this time. And on that particular day and at that time, by the time we got off the phone, we were laughing, joking. Man, just a great time. From feeling some kind of way to feeling that there was no way nothing could stop me. The importance of being honest in fellowship with your fellow man. Other blessings came that same day. Like I said earlier, my kids came by. My oldest came by with the two oldest grandkids. Then number 2 stopped by. Number 4 stopped by. My goddaughter stopped by. This was all different intervals after Bible study. It made me realize how blessed I was. Being around my family pulled me out of my funk. Family, let's reconnect. Let's recoalesce. Let's solidify whatever it is that we have as family. It's important to our physical and our mental health.
All right. Well, I think we had a pretty good conversation today. We do appreciate everyone's time in watching our podcast. Don't think we take it for granted. We really enjoy doing this for you guys. If you like what you hear, please like us on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. That will.
It's also on Spotify
Go ahead, Justin.
It's
Tell us
on-
where we're at.
You can find it on Spotify, Dialogue to Destiny, Apple Podcast app, Dialogue to Destiny. I know some people, they don't want to sit down with their YouTube screen open or whatever the whole time. Just, throw it in your headphones while you're on a walk or at work. I listen to a ton of podcasts at work, so it's an easy way to get it.
Yeah.
And
Hit the notification bell.
Yep, so you see when something new's posted. Yep.
Do not be afraid to bring some suggested topics. We would love to talk with you about what it is that you folks want to talk about. This is relative to not only to what we do into this community, how what's going on in your community is relative as well to what we do here.
Yeah. And I didn't mention that Justin Goeman, he does produce this podcast for us, so we invited him to come on. And once again, go and check out his podcast, We Are One, on those same platforms. And I'm sure you'll enjoy some of the conversations that he has. But for now, we're going to go ahead and end this podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.
Peace.